Hello and welcome to PCOS Body Liberation Conversations with Julie and Laura. We are so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. How's it going, Laura?
I'm doing really good. I have the giggles, apparently.
Well, I was just telling her about burping, so that is a funny thing to say. Anyway, we are glad you're here, and we are going to start with a card pull. And if you are new to the PCOS Body Liberation conversation, we have these cards. Oh, that's so bright. You can't see it. There's no way. Let's see.
Glowing white.
It's a halo. Well, it's our logo.
So mine.
Okay, that might be good. And I can just tell you which one I pull. That was so funny. There we go. Thank you. So I'm going to pull one and we're going to discuss it. All right. I'm just shuffling them up. All right. And are you ready?
I'm ready.
Yes. Your PCOS tools: embodiment, self-care, food peace.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, the Kool-Aid.
That's why it's like the longest one too. That's why I was like, are you ready?
Are you ready?
This may take a while. So with a card pull, the intention is really whatever you want it to be. And for Laura and I, we like to kind of think about it and, just verbalize what comes to mind. And as we're talking about it, think about it for you. What do you think about for your PCOS tools: embodiment, self-care, and food peace? What comes to mind to you, Laura?
Just that, like, those really are like the trifecta for me. Embodiment, self-care, food peace. I mean, yes, like there's a reason we put those on the card, because I can feel in my life when one of those is like not as strong as the other. And like they really are so important, but they're also related to each other. They impact each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts at one time. One, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be in the place that I am today. And also sending a lot of like love and compassion to those who maybe aren't as strong in those areas as they would like to be, because I know what that feels like. And it's so hard, and it feels like you're never going to get anywhere, but you're going to get somewhere. But yeah, this is so cheesy because it's like almost Thanksgiving, but I feel just really grateful when I hear those words now.
Yeah.
Because I know how they, like, the three of those like really changed my life. They all came together and changed my life.
Yeah, and the food piece part, as a dietitian, that's like my big enchilada. Like this is something that I'm always talking about. And for decades, I really thought about food as an all or nothing, like this is going to fix it, and not really appreciating how, oh yeah, some people don't have access to actually being in their body because they've been traumatized there. And so how are they going to know when they're hungry or full when it's not safe to be in their body? And so what are you going to do, Julie? And at first I just saw that as like this solitary kind of skill, but I don't know how people can mend their relationship with food and their relationship with their body without attending to trauma and embodiment, and not in a timeline like you better get this done kind of thing, but just like if you're wanting to feel more at home in your own skin, I just can't imagine doing that work without attending to that and whatever speed you need, You
have to. And I think it's really good to point out, it's not like, okay, I've done my embodiment work, now I can move on to they're interlocked, they're intersecting forever. And
forever.
Forever be needing to work on the embodiment piece, the food piece, with self-care is like the blanket that covers you.
Ooh, yeah.
Tuck you in with your self-care blanket.
Like swaddle, I got really good at swaddling my kids.
Exactly. That's like what self-care can feel like, is even when it's hard, when it's like that ugly, hard self-care, it's still like that protective swaddle feeling of like.
That's a great point, because when my kids were screaming, one of my kids had colic, which, for like 3 months, she basically screamed. And the tighter we swaddled them, the more calm they were. So interesting. But yeah, like the self-care piece, we don't live in a world that really thinks self-care is anything that we need to attend to. But I can't imagine
if
doing any of this.
they talk about it in terms of the glamorous kinds of self.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The pretty self-care, right? The bubble bath and the face masks and painting your nails and like those things are great, but like that's not the work that is gonna create healing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of for self-care that creates healing?
Oh, all the all the hard stuff that you have to do, like well, so I'll speak for myself. Like for me, the ugly self-care is analyzing the way that I feel and why I feel that way. Where did I learn to feel this way about whatever topic? It's about having the hard conversation, making the difficult choice, creating and maintaining boundaries. Pushing myself to make doctor's appointments even when they make it hard and I don't really want to go, but I know that it like ultimately is for the best. I'm currently in the middle of that.
Good luck.
Yeah. I just want to make an appointment. It's been like, oh my God, months.
It's so hard to make that first call.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think of boundaries and therapy, feeling the feelings and letting yourself like feel them and process them and giving yourself space to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. Giving yourself permission to feel and honor whatever comes up and not judge yourself for having those feelings. Oh man, there's a lot.
Yeah. That's another part of self-care that I think we've talked about before, is that like so much of self-care is about like good feelings and not being angry and but that feeling angry or sad or grief or all of those, I mean, I think that is like really important self-care. That's what you're experiencing.
Yeah, because we're human beings and not robots. And so we didn't, I don't know.
Yourself.
I don't know if you knew this, Julie. I'm not a robot, at least. And so it's unreasonable and I think unhealthy to expect us to not feel, express, analyze anger or sadness. And that gets into like toxic positivity, right? Which I don't think we've ever like dived into, but like have kind of talked about a little bit, but that's so dangerous. There's like this whole, especially online, especially like on Instagram, the whole thing about like, it's like good vibes only, like.
Right. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Who does that serve?
Yeah, that doesn't serve me. That doesn't
probably help. Not the two of us or people listening. No.
Yeah, probably.
No. Oh, well, are we ready to wrap up this card pull?
Yeah.
If we had a jingle, we could put one right here. But how about we go to the next segment? I'm so glad you're dancing. What? So, do you have a question in the box for us?
I have many questions, or I have topics. So if you're not familiar, this
topic, sorry.
This is the box that I shake because it's fun. So we have inside of this box topics crumpled up, and we're gonna pick one. And by we, I mean me. And then we're gonna talk about it, and that's what this whole show is. Okay. I've selected one.
It better be a good one.
No pressure. We made the topics.
That's true.
Ooh. It is a good one. Oh, I'm excited. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
How long are you going to keep it to yourself?
I know. I'm really excited though. This is a really good one. I don't know if you can, oh my God. It says pleasure.
Oh, that is a good one.
My handwriting is bananas, but
yes.
Oh, I'm excited because this is
well, of course you're excited. It's about pleasure.
It's about pleasure. And it's something that I think that we don't talk about enough in the PCOS world. I don't think that fat people, so like as a fat person, I will say I don't think that fat people get to talk about or highlight their own pleasure or the pleasure of our community. And pleasure doesn't have to be like just a sexual thing. Let me just start with that.
And it's okay if that's a part of it too.
And that's awesome if it's if that's a part that you want in your life, great. But I also think that the word pleasure has become synonymous with like sexual things.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's like because I use the word like sensual. I mean all of the senses, but like sensual and sensuality has kind of like been pigeonholed just with sexuality.
Yeah.
But like, so one of the things that I talk about when I talk about pleasure is like the senses, and talking about like textures, finding pleasure in your body. And it doesn't have to be sexual, but it definitely can. But like, just like the texture of your skin or your hair, or feeling things against your skin, or smelling things, finding pleasure in what you see, what you hear, like creating environments for yourself, as a form of self-care that are pleasurable.
Yeah. I think
'Cause-
about that too. In order to access that, we really need to be in the moment.
Mm,
And that may be hard, but then there may be times or types of senses or types of pleasure that may feel more accessible in the moment. Like
mhm.
maybe like feeling I don't know what they're doing in like the blanket industry, but the ability to make a really soft, like that super soft, like fake fur feeling. I'm like, what did they must have invented something new, because it's like it's magical. I'm like, oh, I could just
Yeah.
feel this blanket. And so I know for a lot of people I've talked to, that that's like an accessible kind of like
Mhm.
in to
Yeah.
something that feels pleasurable. I know that
Or like candles, like scented candles.
yes.
And those are like ways that, when you were saying that, it's like, I was thinking those are ways that people kind of will allow themselves to find pleasure, like through a soft blanket, a scented candle, or nice music. But other ways, maybe they kind of feel like, oh, that's not for me. I'm not allowed to find pleasure that way, with food,
Yes.
with intimacy, with sex or other forms of intimacy. Um, what else? I'm trying to think like other things that people are like, oh, I don't deserve to have that. Or when I, lose this weight,
Yes.
I'm allowed to
Yeah.
like,
Delayed kind of pleasure. Yeah.
yeah,
One
whatever
day.
it is, whether it's weight or whatever. I just hear weight a lot, with the people in my community. And I used to feel that way also. It's like, oh, well,
Mhm.
I'll buy that really like soft, beautiful dress, like when I can buy it in this size.
Yeah.
Like I
Can
don't
we
just,
talk about the food part for a
oh yeah,
second? Because I mean, whenever I hear the word pleasure in these conversations, of course, that's the first thing I think of. And I think it's a really important one to bring up, because the way culturally we've connected food pleasure is like sinful, or I don't know, I'm
yeah.
trying to think of like other words that you'll see. What did you say?
I just said guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Yeah, like there's lots of phrases that are attached to foods that are like super delicious,
Mhm.
and like that's a bad thing. And this is like so like boring, not sexy nutrition kind of information. But like if you ask most dietitians what is, I'm going to use the word that I hate using, but like what is really healthy eating? Like if we're going to like name what that could be, I mean, and there's so many layers of like privilege and access and like things like that to that phrase. But like on a robotic level, to bring back the robot, it would be just like variety, like
Mm,
just having a variety of food. And a variety of food means like some are going to be just okay, and some are going to be super pleasurable, and some are going to be in between. Like that's like, I think it's really important to include pleasure, um, just to get all the nutrients you need, but also to like to have fun with food. That's a really important part of like our relationship with food. And
mhm.
when we look at like, there's like these pyramids of like, well, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Um, well, there's like a food hierarchy of needs where the foundation is just like access to enough food. But then
Mm,
when you move on up the pyramid, there's a part of it is like access to like novel food, and then access to pleasurable food. So having food that is tasty and brings you that kind of umph feeling, which I don't know a better way to describe that, but that's like a hormonal reaction of like when we go from like hungry to feeling that like pleasurably full feeling. It's like a hormonal kind of cascade that happens that makes us go like,
yeah.
that felt good. And that's a really normal part, an important part of like meeting our needs nutritionally, like physically, but also like psychologically.
That's so
So,
important, like what you just said, because what you just described is like emotional eating or comfort eating,
oh yeah.
which is so demonized. And like what you just said is literally that's what's happening in your body So then when people say like comfort eating is bad, emotional eating is bad, you're literally saying the way that your human body functions is bad.
They think we're robots again. And yeah, like emotional eating is really normal. And that's just normal eating. It's like, and I don't, again, that's another word besides healthy, but like normal is another one. I'm not going to like say a lot, but it is really like just a human experience, is just to experience like a shift in emotions with eating.
Yeah.
And it is coping. Like if we are experiencing an emotion that feels intolerable for whatever reason, having food there to help in that moment is coping.
Mm,
And I think that's a great thing.
yeah.
So
And like, so then if you're in that moment and you're like, oh, I'm going to eat something, and that's like, well, not that you're maybe necessarily like consciously thinking through, and that's going to help me cope, but like, if you are like, oh my God, what would feel most pleasurable and most like helpful to me
mhm.
right now is pizza. So then making like a zucchini pizza, whatever, like thing, like that's not going to do it for you.
Yeah, your
That's
body will let you know.
that's what I'm hearing is like, unless you like really love that and that's the form of pizza that
Sure.
you're thinking of. Like, listen, I've had that. That's good. But like, if you
Ugh.
uh,
Yeah.
maybe you should eat the pizza,
Yeah.
not
And
the
the
pizza.
fake pizza. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's its own kind of discussion of like, how do you meet your cravings?
Mhm.
And, that's another place where access will come into play, because I know sometimes people are not going to be able to have pizza for whatever reason. Just they're not going to be able to buy it, or they don't have it in that moment. But if you have it and you make a fake version of it,
Yeah.
I have a feeling your body's going to tell you that that just wasn't enough. that wasn't the oomph that I was talking about, that hormonal change,
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about like times in my life when I, would make those like healthy swaps. Like if you're
Yeah.
this, have this, and it never. Sorry, I'm like clapping right in front of the mic. It was never like satiating in the way that I need to
Mm-mm.
be,
Mm-mm.
because it's not the thing. It like it's just it's not. It's a fake, and not
Yeah.
that it can't also be delicious or that I'm hating on people who like those foods. Listen, I like the little zucchini slice pizza. It's good. However, if what I'm craving is like the crust and the
Yeah.
crunchy and then the chewy and the all of that, like it's just not going to do it.
Well, and in particular, you're bringing up like there's macronutrients involved, like carbs and fats in foods are the two that bring about that kind of umph, that pleasurable feeling.
Mm,
And vegetables and protein or whatever, whatever is like is allowed in that moment, or whatever you're describing, like that's just not going to do that. And we all can probably connect it on some level of like feeling full but not satisfied. And I feel like that's what happens in those moments. Like feeling
yeah.
satisfied is a part of getting enough too.
Mhm.
So yeah, wow, pleasure really has connections in all these different places. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah. And so like so beyond food, I mean, we could talk about food forever.
Hmm.
I want to talk about pleasure in other ways. Um, so like within the PCOS world, I don't know, Julie, if anything comes up for you, like stuff that you've heard people talk about, like pleasure wise. When I think of it, I just think of like how we monitor or not monitor, how we control ourselves and we don't allow
Yes.
ourselves to have that pleasure. Um,
Hmm.
and the first thing that comes to mind, like the first reasoning is like, because I don't deserve to have that.
Like the shame and self-worth have been,
Yeah, because there's so
yeah.
much shame with PCOS. And even if you know, like, oh, I didn't cause it, like sometimes you don't
Hmm.
remember that you didn't
Yeah.
cause your PCOS and you have that shame, and it can keep you from feeling like you deserve to access different pleasurable things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of people who talk about feeling isolated and alone, and the shame has blocked them from like relationships and connection. And there's so much pleasure in like just connecting with other people and having a belly laugh with them, and sharing experiences, and like I think about that type of pleasure too. And yes, I hope anyone listening with PCOS, you can remember that yes, you PCOS is not your fault, and it doesn't define your worth. And lots of people do feel that like shame of experiencing it, and we want to like dismantle that right now, take it off, so you can access pleasure in all these different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think about even just like thoughts that I've had to like push through of like, oh well, I like not just food related, but like, oh, I would like to, go to this thing or like get this item or like this kitchen gadget or whatever. And I feel like that would be pleasurable to me in various ways, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like I feel sometimes like I get stuck. Like I'm like, oh no, I can't have that. And it's not even like this like real logical progression of thoughts like, oh, I can't have that because I don't deserve to because I have PCOS or I'm fat or like whatever. But it's just like this ingrained thing
Yeah.
that has been, um, nourished, unfortunately, over time,
Mm.
over my whole life by the culture that we live in that tells me that I don't deserve nice things. I don't
Mm.
deserve beautiful things. I don't deserve the pleasure of having or seeing or touching or whatever. Like delicate things, beautiful things, stuff like that.
Yeah, something special.
Something special. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't deserve. Oh man, that feels. hmm That like hit.
Hmm.
Like I don't deserve special things.
Yeah. You
Oh,
deserve special things.
thanks, Julie.
Yeah.
And most of the time I feel like that, but I still like, I've
Mm-hmm.
been working on not hating myself for a really long time.
Well, and I think you're bringing up a really important part that like this work includes is like some of those parts that were nourished that we wish that weren't, like that shame or that block or whatever it is that's keeping people in a place of stuckness. There may be always like a little small part, and it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong,
No,
but just when you're
it's just
there to connect with it. And maybe, I don't know if it's there to inform you or if it's just this old part that is still trying to,
I
have
think
control.
I think it's both.
Yeah.
I always talk about how we have to keep swimming, right?
Yes, you do.
So
Yeah.
I always say this. So if you've never heard it before, I talk about how like for us to live with body liberation, rejecting diet culture, all of these things, you're really swimming against the stream because the world that we live in is the water is all those messages, you need to lose weight, you need to do this, you need to look like this, you need to whatever, all the things. And so if we stop swimming, we get swept away by the current. And so it's just a good reminder that like maybe what that tells me, what I listen to when those things happen is like I must be treading water, right? Like I haven't been swept
Mm.
away, but maybe I
Yeah.
decided to rest a little bit. And it's just a good reminder. And what that usually tells me is that the ugly self-care, I need,
You need to get those boundaries out. Yeah, something like that.
yeah. But I think that it's a kind of a universal, I think a lot of people, regardless of, ooh, if you have PCOS or, sorry, my computer made a noise, or if you are
Okay.
fat, um, I think that the world tells you that anyway, that like
Yeah.
all these things, but it's like worse, like the more, it's like putting on the, what do they call it? The yoke, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so like you put on this yoke and you start loading buckets on it. It's like,
Hmm.
and you're fat, and you have PCOS, and you're a person of color, like all these things, right? Um, just weighing you down. So,
Just for being who you are.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is a good reminder that you can work on taking those buckets off. Well, you can't take the buckets off, but you can.
Yeah. Well, and we hope that like having access to more communities that are like committed to having something different can like just lessen that load a little bit or give you some swimmies or something. I don't know. Like, what can we do with the metaphor?
I don't know where I'm going with that metaphor, but yes, lighten the weight of everything.
Something.
And the
Yeah.
more of us that come together in these communities, whatever it is, whether it's like a chronic illness community or a fat community or anything,
Yes. Yeah.
the more of us that come together, like the stronger we are, and the
Well, we
more
can all hold the loads together.
right,
Yeah.
we support each other
Yeah.
and we create change, right? And so,
Right.
um, so we're talking about pleasure, and like I really would like there to be a change in the world and the way that we talk about pleasure. Pleasure is talked about like as a reward
Yeah.
for something, like, oh, you did a good job, so you get an ice cream cone. That was like when
Hmm.
I was little. If I
Yeah.
was good at the end of the week, I could have an ice cream cone, which is like a big treat because I was fat. Um, and I wasn't supposed to have those things. But I would really love to see pleasure something that is a normal part of everyday
Hmm.
existence and not
Yeah.
like this carrot, you know,
Yeah.
lose lose weight and you can have that beautiful whatever you were looking at, you
Yeah.
know.
Like as normal as like brushing your teeth every day, or I don't know, just part of the, and that sounds so like routine, but maybe that's even what it
I
needs
mean,
to be. Yeah. Just a
shouldn't
part
it
of the
be
routine.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be like purchasing like I keep talking about
Right.
clothes or whatever, but like the pleasure is like allowing yourself time to like put on lotion and not just putting on lotion but like
Hmm.
enjoying the smell and the feel of the lotion, like thinking nice thoughts about yourself like as you put on the lotion, like that's another
Hmm.
kind of way to find some pleasure in
Yeah.
your body, and in a way that is like that kind of everyday
Yeah.
normal.
And it may feel weird, especially if it's new to you, to like intentionally do that. Excuse me, but we need to wrap up. It's
Oh
time
God.
for us to say goodbye, which is the opposite of pleasure. But
Well,
anyway,
yeah, so I hope that this was an interesting topic to hear about. We would love to hear your comments about pleasure or anything
yeah.
else that we talked about today. So if you're feeling it, leave a comment in the comment box below. Feel free to comment on each other's stuff. Like it's really great when everyone talks to each other. Like we're all about
Hmm.
community here and conversations, obviously. Give this video a like if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We're doing the conversations videos a couple times a month. So if you want to be sure that you see them come up in your feed, click subscribe.
Yes. And if you want to see more about what we're doing, go over to Instagram, PCOS Body Liberation. You can find out more about the community at PCOSBodyLiberation.com.
And I'll be in the description box if you want to just click a link.
Oh, yeah. I always forget about that.
Yeah.
So are you ready to cheers? And you're not going to be able to see my mug, but it really is the right one.
All right, ready?
It's just so bright. Cheers. Have a great day.